Coming into the 2022 MLB season, it looked like it would finally be the Angels' year. Mike Trout was returning from an injury that cost him most of last season. Shohei Ohtani was fresh off winning the AL MVP, and they had just made some good additions to the team in free agency that looked to propel them to the playoffs for the second time in Mike Trout's career with the Angels. What's up, guys? It's Six Man Sports. Please subscribe and hit that like button if you're new to the channel. We'll be coming out with new sports content all summer. And yeah, let's talk about the LA Angels and how they fell from one of the best teams in the AL to a team that's out of a playoff position and whether they can fix that. Through the first 44 games of the season, the Angels were 27-17, just one game back of the Astros for the lead in the AL West. With the Mariners and the Rangers underperforming, it seemed like this would be the year for the Angels to take advantage of their bad division and finally make the playoffs with Trout and Ohtani. What followed was a collapse where they currently have lost 14 games in a row, the firing of manager Joe Maddon, and a massive slump in injury to star Mike Trout. During the 14-game losing streak, Trout batted .152 and at one point had a stretch in which he went 0 for 26. He also struck out at an incredibly high rate of 33% of the time, which is very unusual for a guy like Mike Trout. Taylor Ward, who had been one of the team's best hitters up to this point, also had a bad 10-game streak before being placed on the IL with a hamstring strain. David Fletcher needed hip surgery, and former All-Star Anthony Rendon went on the IL for a wrist issue. Even though only one of their hitters has a WRC plus over 100, meaning that they only had one above average hitter over the last 14 games, like always, the Angels, the problem is not the hitting, the biggest problem is the pitching. So far this season, the Angels' bullpen and rotation has combined for an ERA of .399, which is good for 18th in all of baseball. However, during the 14-game losing streak, their lowest starter ERA is 5.4, which is Jose Suarez. Michael Lorenzen has a 5.84, Noah Syndergaard has a 6.48, Patrick Sandoval has an 8.22, and Shohei Ohtani has a 9 ERA. As you can see, the starters have not been very good at all during the 14-game losing streak, and they've just clearly been allowing a lot of runs. Their bullpen hasn't been that good either, as the last two games against Boston, the bullpen was the main reason they lost, and Jaime Barria and Raisel Iglesias have also been bad from the bullpen. So now, let's talk about the firing of manager Joe Maddon. If you look at the stats for both pitching and hitting that I just mentioned, most of the notable players on the team have simply just played bad baseball for 14 games in a row. This isn't Joe Maddon's fault. He can't go play for the team, and the decisions he makes in games are not bad to where they lose because of him. He simply didn't change his manager. He was the same manager as when they were 27-17. I think Maddon didn't deserve to get fired, and if anyone did, it's definitely a pitching or hitting coach rather than the manager. Phil Nevin, the third base coach, has stepped in as interim manager for the rest of the season. We'll see how he does, but this losing streak was definitely not a manager's fault, more of a player's fault, for sure. So let's talk about the rest of the season for the Angels. Currently, they are 27-31, which puts them in second in the underperforming AL West. But with the additional wildcard spot added this season, they are 3.5 games back of a wildcard spot, and as of right now, they have to jump the White Sox, who have been struck by injuries, the Guardians, and the surging Red Sox. Good for the Angels, the Red Sox have the second hardest strength of schedule remaining, but both the Guardians and White Sox have around the same, if not a harder strength of schedule remaining. You'd think the White Sox will come around after all the injuries they've been playing with, but they've been playing .500 baseball for a while, so we'll see if they can come back once all their notable players are healthy. And this team is a very scared team, and they've been good, but they just need to not get injured. Once the Angels also get healthy, because they're dealing with injuries to Trout, Ward, Rendon, and Fletcher, they just have to win series and games and just be better than all the other teams in the race, because the White Sox, they have an easier schedule and they have a better overall team and roster, so they just have to win series and beat teams that they're not really supposed to beat. Once the Angels kind of get out of this funk, this slump, this losing streak, they'll clearly be a much better team. You just have to win that one game, and even if they lose the next two games, they just have that motivation, or they've okay, we're finally out of this losing streak, and they can be a much better team. But Trout and Ohtani, they're gonna have to do some special things, man, and Taylor Ward's gonna have to keep up his production, and Anthony Rendon's gonna have to return to all-star form. He's playing good, but just not as good as we know Anthony Rendon. But all that being said, the pitching is what's gonna ride or die for this team. This team, their pitching needs to be good, as you saw during the losing streak. their pitching is what cost them many of the games. They're just clearly allowing a lot of runs, and their pitching staff need to make some trades for sure at the trade deadline if they want to go all in for the playoffs. And I think once they get to the playoffs, they can definitely upset some teams for sure, but they just need to get better arms for the rotation and the bullpen. And there's a lot of good arms they can get at the trade deadline. They just have to make the trades and be willing to give up some of their key young pieces. But that's it for this video, guys. The Angels have clearly been struggling, losing 14 games in a row, and their players just need to get healthy, and Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani need to play consistently at their MVP level for this team to go far. But we'll see how they finish. Let me know in the comments down below if you think the Angels will make the playoffs. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe and like, and I'll see you soon. Bye.